Hello, everyone. I'm Dalton Burdett.
I'm Nick Caricchio.
And we are the Movie Nights.
Well, some of us.
If you're watching us, it's because you want to hear our uncensored,
unfiltered
thoughts and opinions on the world of movies and entertainment. So kick back,
relax,
and thank you for being part of the conversation.
Did I mess that up there?
You just paused a little bit.
No, I did. Do I say, well, some of us or some of them?
You normally say them. This time you said us. Hey, new year.
New year, new beginnings.
New us. Same assholes, but that's okay.
Hey, we're back, baby.
We're back, baby. So right off the bat, we're going to go ahead and do the movie news section of our show.
Mm-hmm.
It will be a bit condensed because we're going to do our Phase 4 rankings also, and we have a funny feeling that might take some time to get through.
Just a little bit.
So, but we do want to run through some topics. It's not quite B-roll, not quite main topics, a little magic in between there.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you guys so much for coming back for the new year. It's super fun to be back, and we're looking forward to another great year with everyone. And I hope you like the new opening. Anyways, Nicholas, what's the first little story you got for us?
Our first story comes to us from Deadline. Genre legend Sam Raimi's Raimi Productions and Barbarian executive producer Alex Lebovici Hammerstone Studios are reteaming with Christian Mercury's Capstone Studios to produce the horror thriller movie Don't Move. Now, Don't Move will watch as a seasoned killer injects a grieving woman with a paralytic agent. She must then run, fight, and hide before her body completely shuts down.
So a couple things here. One, awesome plot.
Mm-hmm.
It's the horror version of Crank, and I'm all about it. Two,
Jason Statham movie.
yes.
Go on.
First of all, both Crank and Crank 2, great. I'm just going to say it. Anyway, Sam Raimi producing horror. A lot of times you'll see big filmmakers like produce movies, but they really didn't have much to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Raimi, when he produces a horror movie, he finds great filmmakers who are going overlooked, puts them in a position to make a great movie, and the movie usually turns out great. He got Fede Alvarez to do Evil Dead 2013 and look at the great films that he's been able to do. He's recently picked up Lee Cronin to do the new Evil Dead Rise, which screened so well in test screenings that they moved it from HBO Max to theaters. Mm-hmm. Super excited about that if you know anything about us. But there is something I do want to point out specifically about Sam Raimi when it comes to picking filmmakers and doing projects. This man produced a movie that one day I will make its own video on. This movie is the poster child of if you want to talk about some plot versus story and how one's more important than the other and it really doesn't matter. This man produced a movie called Crawl in 2019, and it is such a fantastic movie directed by Alexandra Aja. Amazing movie about an alligator that comes into a house during a hurricane and they gotta get away from it. Awesome movie. And, you know, basically what I'm getting at is when Sam Raimi produces a film, he takes it very seriously and puts everyone in the best position for success. Add that in with the EP of Barbarian. Mm-hmm. I think this is going to be excellent. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, Barbarian was definitely a sleeper hit of horror last year, I think. And to see that team getting under one of the goats of horror directing is always a great sight. And quite frankly, I mean, maybe I'm just not making enough use of my Shudder account, but I feel like I haven't seen much body horror in a minute.
Yeah.
So I'm all for that too, because body horror is rad.
Body horror is rad. We love body horror here.
And again, just Sam Raimi getting paid. Always love to see it.
Always love to see it.
And always taking chances on like some indie filmmakers. So
yes.
That's always nice to see too.
Yes. One of the greats. What do you guys think about the upcoming film Don't Move? Are you excited to see it? Let us know in the comments as we move on to our next story. Nicholas, what you got for us next?
Our next story comes to us from Variety and is actually a follow-up to a story we reported on in a previous episode. We previously reported that Twister, the 1996 disaster film, is getting a sequel titled Twisters. Well, there's a lot more information now, such as it getting a summer 2024 release going up against an animated Transformers movie and a week before Marvel's Thunderbolts. Now, not only do they have a release date, Dalton, they also have a director. That director, Lee Isaac Chung, who, as you know, steered Minari to several Oscar nominations. But that's not all. We not only have a director and release date, Dalton. You know what else we have?
What do we have?
Some screenwriters.
Throw them at me.
Well, it'll be co-wrote by Mark L. Smith, who co-wrote Alejandro G. Inarritu's Academy Award-winning The Revenant, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Mm-hmm. So to recap, summer 2024 blockbuster disaster movie being directed by a man whose last film led to several Oscar nominations, being written by another Oscar-winning or Oscar-nominated movie's film screenplay writer. Mm-hmm. Not only that, Dalton, Our boy Spielberg's producing it.
Oh, you know he is. You know he is.
So, thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are this. Holy shit. Lee Isaac Chung, what a get for this type of film. And the fact that they're taking the movie so seriously and doing things they want to make the best movie possible.
Yeah.
And all this talent is proving that. And I think that's really wonderful to see, especially with a movie with the franchise as beloved as Twister. Hopefully, as you mentioned the last time we talked about this, they do put that $sign in that second S. That would be wonderful.
As it should be.
Yes, but like it just blows my mind again that they're taking this seriously, but I'm really excited about it. I have a feeling it's going to be great. There's a reason why Spielberg read this script and was like, let's fucking get going on this movie.
Get it out now.
And yeah, I'm super excited about it. And correct me if I'm wrong. Twister, the original.
A film I have not seen yet.
That's right. We talked about this last time.
Yes.
We're going to change that. I feel like it might even be up there with Face Off and Con Air for you. No Nick Cage.
That's high praise.
It's high praise.
High.
But you have
Those are bold words.
But you have Bill Paxton and Philip Seymour Hoffman and Helen Hunt.
Okay. Very quick, very brief aside here. Philip Seymour Hoffman, best Mission Impossible villain.
Abso-fucking-lutely, he's the best Mission Impossible villain. He was the only one that genuinely scared me. And the whole time I watched Mission Impossible 3 with his villain and that performance, I'm like, Tom Cruise is going to lose. Like, the whole time I was watching the movie, the first time I saw it, I'm like, they're fucked. Like, there's no...
Genuinely, a tonal shift for the movies.
Yes.
And a great one at that.
And he crushed it. Well, he always crushed it. He was incredible.
Now, obviously, we can't get Philip Seymour Hoffman and Bill Paxton in Twisters because of their passing, but do you think, though, there's a strong possibility of them getting Helen Hunt, or do you think they're going to try to just far remove?
I think it just depends on the story. You know, we're dealing with people who know what they're doing, and I think that if the story calls for Helen Hunt to be a part, I would love to see it. I think the fans would love to see it, but if not, then they're not going to force it. And I think that with the directing and writing, producing team that we have, we're going to get a solid film. And I'm really, really excited for this to come out and for the eventual next year, like for the promotional materials start coming out. I'm really looking forward to the movie. And you need to watch the fucking first one.
Yes, I do.
What do you guys think about Twisters adding a director and a release date? Let us know in the comments as we move on to our next and final news topic story. Nicholas, what you got for us?
Our next story comes to us from Variety. It's kind of a big topic.
Big topic.
Movie studios can be sued under false advertising laws if they release deceptive movie trailers, a federal judge ruled on Tuesday. U.S. District Judge Stephen Wilson issued a ruling in the case involving Yesterday, the 2019 film about the world without the Beatles. 2 Ana de Armas fans filed the lawsuit in January, alleging that they had rented the movie after seeing Ana de Armas in the trailer, only to discover that she was cut out of the final film. Marvel's screwed.
That's essentially the conclusion. No, so just to quickly recap, because I don't remember if we talked about this story when it had happened a few months ago or if we were on hiatus.
I think we talked about the lawsuit, but we didn't get into anything like big
anything specific. Yeah. Okay, so here's what happened. These guys wanted to watch, were on Amazon Prime, wanted to watch a movie. They saw a trailer for Yesterday, had Ana de Armas in it. They were like, we love her, watched it, she's not in it. They're pissed, they sue. Right? And Universal, to counteract this, just tried to have the suit thrown out because they're like, this is ridiculous. Trailers, you have to, have some creative. They're like their own little short films that you put out. It's whatever. But this federal judge has now denied their request to throw out the case, saying, I'm paraphrasing, but basically saying, yes, you're right that you have to be creatively interesting with a trailer and kind of make some, leeway here and there. But do not forget that this is a commercial for a product that you are selling, that product being a movie. And you can't falsely advertise that movie. This is big because movie studios are going to take cutting trailers much more seriously now than they ever have before. And I think it's going to be interesting to see the level of panic, like some mild panic that goes in Hollywood. Now, this is a tinfoil hat, but the day after this announcement, my HBO Max terms and service user agreement was updated on like a random Wednesday, which is funny. But, that's probably, maybe it's for something else entirely. But don't be surprised if people have to start re-looking at how they're going to do their trailers. You mentioned Marvel, who was famously manipulating their trailers to keep the audience surprised. Does that follow under the same context, or does that follow under something else? And I think the big thing that could have been avoided is just don't put that trailer on Amazon. Because when they made the trailer initially, the movie hadn't come out yet, and they didn't know she was going to be cut yet. That happens all the time when you are editing a movie. The reason why she was cut, for those interested, is because they did a screen a test screening of the movie, and in that scene that she's in, she goes on a morning show with the lead character, and then they hook up afterwards. And the test audience said that when that happened, they were no longer rooting for him to win back Lily James, which was an important, vital part of the movie, so they cut the scene. Right? It happens all the time. But here we are now with the situation we're in. What do you think about this for the future of movie trailers, and do you think this could go poorly for them?
Well, I have a few thoughts, and that first one being, are we now going to get super obvious trailers?
Perhaps. That's a possibility.
That would suck.
Yeah.
And where's the line? So, like, you go on to any of these streaming services, you click into the movie, and you go to the bottom, right, and you see the trailers tab, where they just put every trailer TV spot that was released for the movie. So are they at fault for doing what's already been set as a precedent on every other movie? Because I'm sure we could sit here and think on it for 5 minutes and be like, oh, who was cut out of a movie after? Go back, and then we have a case of like, oh, well, I wanted to see Iron Man 2 because Terrence Howard was in the first one.
Yeah.
And why is he not here now? But they didn't market him as they did with that. But you know what I mean? Like, if we sat here and ponder, I'm sure we could find an example.
I got one for you.
Yeah.
Wow, this came in deep in my brain, bro, just because we were talking about Mission Impossible earlier.
Yeah.
The trailers for Mission Impossible 2 seem to imply that Anthony Hopkins is going to have a major, huge role, second build in that movie. He's in it for like 5 seconds.
Well, there we go. Can we go watch that? And I would say, like, well, he was in the trailer we watched on it.
Yeah.
I'm an Anthony Hopkins fan. He's only in it for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So where's the line on that?
Yeah.
And now with the Deceptive thing, the thing is, like, if we look at the Marvel trailers, what they're putting in does not alter the tone of the film, right? Like, let's take Captain America fighting Thanos, and they remove the Infinity Stones from the gauntlet.
Yeah.
You still know Thanos is going to fight Captain America.
Yeah.
Power or not, that does not change the tone of the movie.
Agreed.
From the trailer. Having that clip in the trailer does not change the tone of yesterday.
Yeah.
And I would argue that, I mean, you can't really go into someone's mindset, but if you watch a trailer and see they're on a talk show, she's probably not a big part of the movie. She probably just happens to be the talk show guest that's on there.
Yeah.
And then they hook up, and then she's out of the movie. I feel like that's a large leap, so I don't want to go off that. But, where's the line become now of changing the movie tonally? Like, now we're looking at, like, I'll use a poster behind you, Spider-Man No Way Home. Yeah. Right? Toby and Andrew aren't in the trailers.
No, they aren't.
Could I be upset about that? On the poster right now is Angourie Rice, who was fantastic in The Nice Guys, and I love all her movies. If I see that poster, I'm like, oh, Angourie Rice is in it, and she's in a scene. Can I now sue them for that? Yeah. So it's like where it all seems too blurry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, these are all good points, and it actually gets me thinking. A long time ago, there was a lawsuit over the movie Drive where a woman sued because they made the trailers look like an action movie to sell it, and it's not an action movie, and she sued and lost. Get your money back. Try it again. Use this as precedent.
The first Deadpool marketed as a rom-com because it came out on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
That was a huge thing. Like, they did not certain elements were not marketed as a superhero movie.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing is, should the trailer have been on Amazon? Probably not. But every other trailer for every other movie is. And, so that's where, because it becomes a matter of precedent.
That, and I do think that this is just another wake-up call that not everyone is like us or like the people working at the studios who are in tune and tapped with what's going on in the movie world. And it just becomes like, oh, it's a reminder that, like, the general movie going public, they operate based off of what's in front of them. Yeah. Which is not a negative thing. They're doing what we're asking them to do. But like you and I knew that Ana de Armas was cut from the movie. They didn't.
Now, had Ana, like in the trailer, had Ana de Armas been on the poster, had Ana de Armas been the banner image,
had she been on the press tour,
had she been the banner image when you click it in the movie, I feel like it's a different conversation. Going to the extras or auto-playing trailer 1, which is honestly at this point in time probably some auto-generated bot thing that just pulls the image, the video off YouTube. Yep. And it's like, oh yeah, this is the first trailer for yesterday. This now gets plugged in. Where's that line now? How much human involvement was actually in this decision?
Yeah. I'm going to go to Amazon after this and see if they've updated that image. But what do you guys think about this? That you can now, according to a federal judge, you can sue movie companies for misleading trailers. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
Before we move on to our movie review, I just wanted to take care of some quick housekeeping. While we love to have you join and watch us on YouTube, we get that life gets busy. You're constantly running around, or maybe you just don't want to see our faces, especially Dalton's. So for your listening pleasure, the Movie Nights Roundtable is available in audio-only form on Spotify, Google, Apple, and all other major podcasting platforms. Simply open up your podcasting app of choice, type in the Movie Nights Roundtable into the search, and look for that big yellow logo.
As we move on to the box office.
The box office.
So, let's we didn't do really predictions last week, I don't think, because we were going to take the week off.
Yeah.
So, here is your box office top 5 over the New Year holiday weekend. Coming in first was Avatar: The Way of Water, making $66.8 million in its third week of release. And by the way, that is a 6% increase from week 2 to week 3. A movie that huge went up 6%. It does not happen.
I hate James Cameron. I hate that he's right. I hate when he's right.
Coming in second, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, making $16.7 million. Now, here's something else interesting. This is from week 1 to week 2. 35% increase.
Listen, people in our group saw it, and apparently it's
I've heard it's fucking incredible.
Fantastic.
Now, granted, it did open in 22 more theaters.
Yeah.
But that doesn't equate to 35% more.
No.
That is word of mouth. Absolutely. Coming in third was Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, making $4.8 million, which was a 38% increase from the week before, too. So people went over the New Year holiday.
Because all the tickets for Puss in Boots and Avatar are out.
Yep. Coming in fourth was the new Whitney Houston biopic, Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody, making $4 million. And it dropped only 16% from week 1 to week 2, which is still not bad.
Huh.
And coming in fifth was Babylon, making $2.6 million, dropping 28% from week 1 to week 2. Still not enough to save that movie, but we're going to get into that here in a minute. Also, we are recording the show on Monday today, so these could be the final Monday numbers. However, it is in the early afternoon, and sometimes the numbers don't update until the end of the day. If, when I'm editing later, I see the numbers have changed, I will put those in the video description for you guys. But these should be the final Monday numbers. So let's dive into some fun stuff here, Nicholas.
Yes, and then we'll do our predictions for next week.
Avatar: The Way of Water.
Yes.
Has now officially crossed $1.4 billion worldwide, and by the end of the week will surpass Top Gun as the number 1 movie of 2022.
So it did that in 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Is that like some sort of record?
It's up there. It was the 6th fastest movie to hit $1 billion.
Okay.
Right now, its domestic total is over $444 million. Top Gun's domestic total was in the upper 7s. I don't know if it'll get there domestically, but worldwide, it's the number 1 movie of 2022. I believe I will get into the top movies of the year here in a minute. But yes, huge win for James Cameron. How many times did we say on this show, never doubt James Cameron? All the naysayers saying Avatar's no longer pop culturally relevant. No, we fucking knew better.
It angers me. I'm actively upset by it.
So if you want something that makes you happy, then here's this. Worldwide box office so far for Puss in Boots, $135 million.
Jeez.
The budget was probably around the same place. I'm going to look it up. Puss in Boots budget.
Make sure it's for the new one.
Dude, good fucking call. So I think I can only find... Wait, hold on. This is from Wikipedia, so take that with what you will. It's showing a budget of $90 million.
Okay.
So pretty soon it'll be on its way to profitability. If it maintains increases like this, it will.
I mean, I definitely want to see it now.
After all the positive word of mouth, absolutely. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever has a worldwide total now of $820 million. Huge win for that movie, especially considering its budget was probably somewhere in the 200s. Amazing. I believe it made more money than Thor: Love and Thunder, but not as much as Doctor Strange 2.
Okay.
Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody's worldwide box office as of now is $28 million. I'm also unaware of the budget. Let me see here. The numbers website that we use hasn't been doing a lot of budgets recently, but sometimes they don't report the budgets. So it has a budget of 45. So it's about halfway to being 1 times. We'll see with that one profitability. But this is also the type of movie that I think does well on streaming when it's done. So we'll see that. And then there's Babylon, which we're going to talk about more later because I finally saw it.
Yes.
Has not opened worldwide internationally yet. So there's only a domestic box office total. And as of today, the domestic box office total is $10 million.
For an 80-plus movie, probably, more or less?
80 million.
So it would need to make about 200 to be profitable, and
probably
he's sitting at 10?
10, yep. It's not looking good, Chief.
Good luck.
Yeah, which is a shame. But regardless, that's what it's looking like right now. Let me see if I can pull out the number 1 movies of the year so far.
Yeah.
For the worldwide box office, I'm pulling up on Box Office Mojo, which was ruined when IMDb bought it. Fucking fix it, you guys. It's been too long. And for the domestic numbers, I'm going to go back to the numbers because they have a really nice chart over there. So, as of now, and I'm flipping, Box Office Mojo doesn't have the new updated totals for Avatar, and Avatar will pass Top Gun Maverick, so I'm going to put, if you look at the chart right now, it has Top Gun over Avatar. It will pass it. So I'm going to flip the two, just to let you guys know.
Okay.
So top 10 worldwide of the year, Avatar, The Way of Water, number 1, Top Gun Maverick, number 2, Jurassic World Dominion, number 3. Those are the only movies that crossed over $1 billion this year.
Oh, wow.
Coming in 4th, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness with $955 million, and that did not get a China release. Coming in 5th was Minions: The Rise of Gru, making $939 million. Coming in 6th, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever at $820 million. Coming in 7th, The Batman at $770 million. Coming in 8th, Thor: Love and Thunder at $760 million. Coming in 9, Watergate Bridge at $626 million. And coming in 10, Moon Man at $460 million. Now, let's look at the domestic numbers because this is pretty fun. Domestic top movies, and I don't think this will... Avatar has passed Black Panther now domestically.
Okay.
So I'm going to flip those numbers from this chart because it hasn't been updated on this chart. Number 1, Top Gun Maverick at $718 million. Number 2, Avatar: The Way of Water at a little over $440 now. Number 3, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever at $437. Number 4, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness at $411. Number 5, Jurassic World Dominion at $376. Number 6, Minions at $369. Number 7, The Batman at $369. Number 8, Thor at $343. Number 9, No Way Home at $241. Which is weird. I guess... No, they must have carried that over into grosses. So, no, it's not No Way Home.
Okay.
It's actually goes from Thor: Love and Thunder to number 9, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 at $190.
Great movie. Go on.
And number 11, they're going to spin this into a positive, Black Adam at $167.
Everyone's gonna release a top 10. They're gonna release a top 15.
Yeah.
Just to...
Yep. That's how it's going to go. But yeah, so hell of a year. However...
Movies are back.
Here's the thing.
This year.
Oh
my God.
Movies are back.
So
if you look at
out.
what's coming out, oh my God. Movies are back this year.
All the big directors too coming. We're getting new Scorsese, new Anderson, new Shyamalan.
New Astor. Tons of new ones.
Sequels to a bunch of hits too. It's insane.
Just look at June. Look at the month of June. All the movies coming out.
Yeah.
It's batshit crazy. It's the first regular summer in some time.
And movie theaters are going to love and hate it.
Yes.
Because they are wildly understaffed.
The turnover rates are going to be really funny. I can't wait to reach out to my contacts about that. Before we go on, let's go ahead and do our predictions for next week.
I have mine, I think, lined up. But let me ask you this again. What did Puss in Boots make this week?
So, Puss in Boots made... Hold for show, $16 million.
Okay. I have my list then.
You have your list?
Yes. All right. Number
Give
1,
it to me.
I'm going to go Avatar: Way of Water.
Okay.
I think that's going to hold the number 1 spot.
Fair.
Number 2, I'm going to go Megan.
All right.
Number 3, I'm going to go Puss in Boots.
Okay.
Number 4, I'm going to go Black Panther. And number 5, I'm going to go Babylon.
Interesting.
So I think that the Whitney Houston thing might have an upfront tick. And I think Babylon might just kind of stay consistent.
Yeah.
And I think the Whitney Houston will drop below. And I'm putting on a bet of Puss in Boots made 16. So it might make around that again, too, because word of mouth's been so good.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Megan could get to 20.
I'm thinking the same. Now, the only thing that's affecting my decision a little bit is A Man Called Otto opens everywhere the 13th. But it opens limited this week, including Orlando limited.
You said limited for Fablemans, too, though.
I did.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Man Called Otto is going to go nuck and futz here.
But you're going to walk in and see Tom Hanks.
But I do think there's going to be people who see that over, say, Babylon, which is 3 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
So here's mine.
Yes.
Number 1, Avatar: The Way of Water.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Megan. Honestly, I'm going to say this. I wouldn't be surprised if Megan gets to 30 or 40.
Ooh. Right on.
Number 3, Puss in Boots. Number 4, Black Panther. Number 5, I Want to Dance with Somebody.
I'm just going to put Whitney Houston.
Yep.
Because that does not fit on the graphic.
Because I think enough people will see A Man Called Otto that it takes away from Babylon.
But you think not enough people will see it to beat Whitney Houston?
Yes.
Right on.
Because I don't think a lot of people know that Whitney Houston movie's out.
I did not know it was a thing until
And I think when people go to the theaters to look at stuff, they'll be like, oh my God, there's a Whitney Houston movie out.
I think that is possible, yeah.
So we all are different except for the last one, right?
Yep, we just have our fifth flipped.
Down to the wire, baby. It's going to be fun.
Down to the wire.
So that will be the box office for this week. Thank you guys. As we move on to the thing that everyone's been waiting for since they clicked on the thumbnail. Ladies and gentlemen, we have put together our lists for our Marvel Phase 4 rankings. Now, before we get into it, there is something I should point out. We did do a couple of rules here.
Mm-hmm.
One of them being we did not include the Groot shorts, and we did not include What If.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for that is because at the most recent Comic-Con, when they put up Phase 4, they didn't include What If. And it looks like they're moving to the animation stuff to being their own thing. With X-Men and Spider-Man freshman year and all that stuff, it's going to be not included. And with Groot, they're just like little short films. I don't know, Yeah. Technically, we could have included Morbius, but I decided against it. Now, with the Phase 4 rankings, everything else on the table, including Werewolf by Night and the Guardians Holiday Special, and this includes all of the titles other than the ones we didn't include in Marvel Phase 4 from 2021 to the end of 2022, the most in any phase ever.
Mm-hmm.
And ladies
16 movies.
16
items.
16 items. And ladies and gentlemen, I gotta tell you, it was not easy. And I reserve the right in the future to change my answers. I always do this. Like sometimes I'll go back to my Phase 1 list
and just reorder
and make changes because I just feel differently about them.
Now, what's going to be the best way to do this?
I say
because we're gonna have different rankings.
Let's each do our bottom 4. I'll do my bottom 4. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4.
Gotcha. Because here's the thing: I looked at both our lists. Our top and bottoms are fairly similar.
Yeah, the middle's where
things get a little
where it gets fucked up.
All right, so I'm gonna do my bottom 4.
Bottom 4.
All right.
What's coming in number 16?
Number 16, I put She-Hulk: Attorney at Law.
Okay.
While I did enjoy a lot of She-Hulk, mainly Daredevil and Abomination, and I thought that Tatiana Maslany does a great job as the character. Overall, I think just too heavy on the comedy, where I know it was supposed to be a comedy. A lot of the comedy didn't work.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I put it.
Yeah.
Right above that, I put Black Widow. A lot of that, I think, was just too little too late with the character.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very disappointed by the utilization of Taskmaster in the movie. I think Scarlett Johansson's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I feel terrible for what happened. I'm glad she won the lawsuit.
Yeah.
But comparatively to some of the other items, I felt that kind of fell a little short.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to talk about these next two together. So right above that, I have the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, and then I have Hawkeye. I very much enjoyed the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Kind of a nice little just end cap on the thing, just a little fun Christmas spirit. Kevin Bacon, absolutely hysterical in it.
Mm-hmm.
And right above that, I put Hawkeye. And I was comparing both of those in terms of being Christmas.
Yeah. Okay.
And I liked a lot more of Hawkeye because we got a lot more of it too.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that Kate Bishop was an excellent addition to the MCU, played by Haley Steinfeld. I thought Florence Pugh as Yelena, always incredible. Hawkeye, I've always liked the character, so I was glad to see a little more with him. Just the funness of it. Like, I think the Tracksuit Mafia were great. The Kingpin reveal was fine with the character. I'm just happy to have D'Onofrio solidified as playing the character.
Same.
Always love Vera Farmiga.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony Dalton from Better Call Saul.
Yes.
I thought was underutilized, but very fun.
This showed me what a phenomenal actor he is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I think I put those two together just because kind of they're more Christmas focused.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Hawkeye worked better on a Christmas level from that. And just overall from a storytelling and adding to the greater MCU.
Yes.
I think that was kind of a big thing too, is what's this adding to the story going forward?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I didn't feel like a lot from She-Hulk added to the greater story going forward.
Yeah.
And Black Widow was obviously in the past. I feel like that didn't contribute on that level. So that's my bottom 4 for Phase 4.
Gotcha. We have some similarities in the bottom 4. My bottom 4, my number 16, also She-Hulk Attorney at Law. I don't hate the show, but there's 9 episodes. I love the first 3, and I love the last 2. The middle 4 don't really work for me. And I think my biggest problem with the show, I think Tatiana Maslany is perfect as the character, and I want to see her more. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Daredevil and love Charlie Cox in the role. My big problem with the show is, as a functional story, it just fell apart. Like, the whole idea of her being the lawyer in the courtroom and then the hero at night, they do it maybe once over the 9 episodes. And I just feel like the show had no idea what it wanted to be or what it was going to do until that finale episode, which is why if they did She-Hulk season 2, I would watch it because I have a feeling they know now.
Recalibrate, yeah.
Yes. But it lost me on the steps of the way, even though it had me in the beginning. So for that reason, She-Hulk is number 16. Number 15, I also have Black Widow. I am so excited about the idea of a standalone Black Widow movie where we get to see Scarlett Johansson be the spy, be the shade of gray that the MCU doesn't really have, and really kind of prove the different levels of storytelling you can take that character. And I still don't have that movie because that's not what this movie was. It was we need to introduce a new Black Widow, so let's do that, but we can also say goodbye to Scarlett Johansson. That's what it felt like to me.
Red Guardian and Rachel Weisz's character, I thought the whole family dynamic worked very well.
I agree. And there are things in the movie that work very well.
Yeah.
The bridge action fight, I thought, was very well done. A lot of the other action was okay. I love the final confrontation where she fucking breaks her nose on the table. Awesome. But I thought overall, the story of the movie, to me, almost had to justify why you were making the movie and placing it where it was. And it never felt like it did. And for that reason, it is 15th, although I don't hate the movie. Coming in 14th is the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. And I have this as low as it is because I think there are great moments in this. Like, I teared up. The final moment of this made me tear up. Like, there's some genuine great emotion in this. Going to get Kevin Bacon is hilarious. But there's another special that you'll hear about later on this list.
Yeah. That
I felt like was a full, complete story in 45 minutes. This felt like a fun idea that they stretched out to 45 minutes. There's the whole musical number in the beginning did not work for me. I almost turned it off. I was just like, if this is what this is going to be the whole time, I don't want it. I do like that it actually adds to the universe, and there's stuff in here that like you wouldn't have known unless you watched it.
Yes.
And there are great stuff in it. But overall, I'm like, this could have been a fun DVD extra.
Yeah.
Like this, I don't know why this really had to be its whole own thing.
I think the benefit of it was giving Mantis and a little time to shine, because I think she's going to be a major character in 3.
I agree.
And I think setting up that they bought nowhere.
Yes.
Which I thought was rad.
Yes, it is rad. But to me, those are things like
I could have established.
Like my parents aren't going to watch this probably.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take them to Guardians 3 and see if they pick up what's going on. And if they do, then, Yeah. But regardless, overall, great moments. I just thought not all of it worked. That's why it places where it's at. Now, my number 13 is different than yours.
Okay.
My number 13 is Thor: Love and Thunder. Again, I don't hate any of these.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate this movie, but I was disappointed by it. It is a big step down from Thor Ragnarok, which I think is the best Thor movie, and I think it's one of the best movies in the MCU. Mm-hmm. To have Taika Waititi, who's an excellent filmmaker, who the internet just decided wasn't a good filmmaker after this movie came out, which is very odd and shocking to me. You know, the Jojo Rabbit, What We Do in the Shadows guy? Okay. Not a good filmmaker. But
I think he phoned it in for Love and Thunder.
It felt that way.
It felt that way.
And it felt that they went too silly.
Yeah, I don't think he's a bad director.
Not at all. He's
think
amazing.
Thor: Love and Thunder was a significant drop-off for him.
I agree.
Comparatively.
I agree. And, I mean, positives in the movie.
Yeah.
Christian Bale crushed it. Brought his A game. Even Chris Hemsworth. I might not like the direction and the silliness in which his character's going, but he does it perfectly. Mm-hmm. Jane Foster. I thought Natalie Portman did excellent in the film. Mm-hmm. I thought the mixing of the storylines of Gore and Jane Foster didn't work. I think both of those are different Thor movies. Yeah. That I would have liked to see. But overall, and honestly, this looked cheap in terms of the volume didn't really work and how it was used, except for the scene on Gore's planet, which was the best part of the movie for me. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the CGI, especially in the Greek palace, just fell flat for me. And that whole sequence, like, I don't know, the movie would constantly lose me and then pick me back up and then lose me and then pick me back up. Mm-hmm. And with it being a huge step down from Thor Ragnarok, that's why I have it at 13. So those are my bottom 4. What are your next 4, starting with 12?
Number 12, I have The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Okay.
This was the first of the Marvel shows, correct? To release on Disney+?
No, it was WandaVision.
Oh, it was WandaVision. Okay.
It was supposed to be the first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Sorry. And here's my big thing with it. And you could argue with some of the the TV shows, but they kind of course corrected a little bit with later entries. This one felt like a movie that just got chopped up. Mm-hmm. It didn't feel serialized for television. It felt like a 2-hour movie that they dragged out, which they are now course correcting. Like, as they said, like, Armor Wars, too big to be a TV show. Like, we need to make this a movie. Mm-hmm. In terms of positives, love Zemo, love Bucky, love Captain America, Falcon at the time, loved Sam Wilson, loved Agent 13. The villains fell flat for me. Okay. The Flag Smashers. And I understand that there was a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff with COVID, that they had to rework a lot of it. That felt very out of place. I think John Walker was great. Like, I love every character in it. The story kind of just fell flat for me. Mm-hmm. And I like the idea of the TV shows adding to the greater story, not necessarily doing it so that you don't have to watch them. I like the idea of having to watch them, because you can look at Falcon and Winter Soldier, and now Captain America 4 comes out, and he's Captain America. Yeah. And you're like, got it, yes, because Steve Rogers gives him the shield at the end. Yeah. Uh-huh. Now I'm here. And you don't have to give 2 shits about this side mission that he went on. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think with the other shows, they contribute a lot to that.
I agree.
But that being said, I'm interested in all the character storylines going forward, because, now we have Bucky and John Walker being on a team together, because they were announced as part of the Thunderbolts lineup. Mm-hmm. We have whatever Agent 13 is doing with her little thing, and we have Captain America 4 coming out, which will probably tie into the show as well. And I do want to rewatch it, but I think having the villains kind of fall flat and just kind of the issues with that kind of brought it down for me. Next up is another one I need to rewatch, which is The Eternals. Watching that one, I appreciated that they tried to do something drastically different with the movies. Mm-hmm. And I give them points for that. it just kind of felt very dry to me.
Mm-hmm.
I thought some of the action and visuals were really cool. I think that Makari, that was the speedster, I thought the way they did her animation for running was awesome. But the thing with the deviants and like Crow being entirely pointless, I felt kind of took away from that.
Okay.
But I think all the characters interplayed very well together. Like, I loved Angelina Jolie and I don't remember the actor's name, but the guy who played Gilgamesh. Like, I thought their story was the most interesting in the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could have watched a spin-off of just them.
Yeah.
And then above that was that 14, 16, 15, 12, 11?
It started at 12, 11, and then 10.
10, I have Thor, Love and Thunder.
Okay.
So we're kind of at, like, the midpoint, right? It was fine. I think it was a big step down, kind of going off what you said, from Thor Ragnarok. Elements worked for me, but overall the story, a lot of the humor didn't work, and the parts that did were very great. But I just, thinking on the movie more, I feel like there were a lot more plot issues with the greater MCU that kind of just bugged me a little bit. Mm-hmm. But overall, it's still like I don't get angry watching the movie. Like, I can still watch it, have a laugh, or go rewatch certain scenes, like the Gore Planet thing.
Yeah.
And then coming up right above that, at the last of the four, I have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. In terms of excitement versus letdown, I think that was the biggest one. That was the one in this phase that I was most looking forward to, in terms of releases this year, I should say.
Yeah.
And you're bringing in Sam Raimi to direct, and overall, I think the movie just kind of fell flat for me, with the character arcs, the direction of the story. I've lamented on the show before about, issues with the Illuminati and Reed Richards, or, the madness of the multiverse being 3 different places that weren't really that insane.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of where it lies for me.
Gotcha. So this is where it gets interesting, the rankings. My number 12 is Miss Marvel.
Okay.
And I like this show.
Yeah.
And my number 12 and 11, by the way, every day I flip them. So, like, these next 2 are basically interchangeable to me. But the reason why I have Miss Marvel where it is, I love Iman Vellani. I love the dynamic with her and her family. And I thought the pilot episode of the show was one of the best they did for Disney Plus, for Marvel. After that, each episode, I just got slowly less and less interested.
Okay.
And it didn't do anything bad. It just kind of, flatlined,
Yeah.
And now, granted, there's the episode where they go back in time, and I thought that was excellent. Mm-hmm. And I lost my ever-loving fucking mind when they say that she's a fucking mutant and they play the X-Men theme. Amazing, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But overall, the show peaked at excitement with me in its first episode. I think the first episode of the show is its best episode. Mm-hmm. And to me, if you're going to make a show, can't be the case. Number 11 is Hawkeye.
Okay.
Again, you can interchange these because of how I feel about them. Positives with Hawkeye. Everything with Kate Bishop. I liked Vincent D'Onofrio coming back as Kingpin a lot. Whether or not what I like they did to Kingpin, him doing it was perfect and great. Everything with Yelena. Mm-hmm. And Jeremy Renner gives an amazing performance. And his storyline is interesting. Negatives. Episodes 1, 2, and 6 are just not that great. Episodes 3 and 4 and 5 are excellent. Mm-hmm. I think they're excellent. Like, they're not just good. I think they're excellent.
Yeah.
And I think having this be a Christmas show as a gimmick was a disservice to the Hawkeye character and a disservice to a potential goodbye for that character. And I felt like you can do a story about his family being separated and trying to live that double life without having to keep Christmas tropes and have that be a central theme of the show. Mm-hmm. I think it brought it down a lot.
Okay.
And because of that, I have it as low as it is, especially just because I think the first 2 episodes and the final episode were not nearly as strong as the middle episodes. Mm-hmm. I thought the middle episodes directed by Bert and Bertie were phenomenal. Yes. That they're great. Which leads me to number 10. And this one is one that has gone up significantly on my list than in the past. My number 10 is Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Ooh.
And it just comes from a lot of reflection. And I do need to admit, I do need to rewatch a lot of these because there are some things on here that I've seen one time.
Yeah.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the reason why I have it at 10 is because let's do positives first. I love everything with Anthony Mackie and the Isaiah Bradley storyline.
Mm-hmm.
I love everything with Sebastian Stan and his storyline of going through therapy and trying to get better. I love everything about the Johnny Walker and the U.S. agent side.
Mm-hmm.
That storyline I thought was really interesting, fascinating. I love the new suit, and I think that the action in the show was great. I thought Sharon Carter was great. Madripoor, bring it.
The Return of the Leaper, or the whatever his name is.
You're right,
It is
Batroc.
Yeah, Batroc.
What I didn't like about the show, the main villain and main storyline.
Yeah.
That is a very big negative to have. I did not care for the Flag Smashers. I just, every time they were on screen, I was like, please go to any of the other storylines. Because I loved all the other ones.
Yeah.
And another big negative is I do agree with you that you could just watch the end of Endgame, come back, and he's Captain America, and
No harm, no foul.
no harm, no foul.
Oh, Stark suit. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, that's, Wakanda suits, whatever.
Yeah, sorry, that's what it was. Yeah.
But like, and them coming in the show, I enjoyed, like I loved all of that. But just the main, when your main storyline and your main villain is the weak link, it really drags your show down. But there was a lot in the show that I loved. And there were rumors going around that the original plotline of the show involved like a virus and a vaccine, and that it was heavily edited. And if that's the case, that sucks.
Yeah.
But it's better than I remember it being.
Mm-hmm.
But still, that main issue I had with it doesn't take away from it. And I do agree that this could have been a much better film than a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Coming in at number 9, Eternals.
Okay.
And I like this movie more than most. I just think my issue with this is that the other things on the list are better.
Mm-hmm.
I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Like this, if we were doing a tier list, this is where it would jump a tier for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like other than like maybe the last bottom 2.
Yeah.
But like this is a jump for me. I really, really enjoyed this film. The only negatives I have with it are that some of the deviant storylines didn't really work for me. There's a big moment with Angelina Jolie's Thena towards the end of the movie that they really want you to be behind emotionally, but it didn't really build up that final battle with that deviant.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that deviant coming into the story could have been done better with the finale of what's going on with Icarus.
Yeah.
But they went a different route with it. Love Druig and Makari.
Mm-hmm.
I thought their romance was better than the one they were building up with Cersei and Icarus. I much preferred the Druig and Makari romance. I think that Salma Hayek did wonderful. I thought Camille Nanjiani did wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And each time I watch, this is a movie, each time I rewatch it, I like it more. And I thought it was a great addition to the MCU. I understand why people don't like it as much, but we're at the 9th spot, and this is the first one where I'm like, dang, that feels low for how much I like it. Which also just goes to show how much I like the other projects.
Here's my thing with Eternals. I don't see where we go.
Yet.
I don't see where we go yet. But with all the Avengers stuff they planned in the multiverse, like I don't see where an Eternals 2 fits in because they really tried to make it such a huge part that I don't see what the build up to the greater MCU storyline with the multiverse and like Kang and everything, where that goes. And it could very well come up in the next movie. Who knows? But yeah.
Cool. All right. So what is your 8, 7, 6, and 5?
All right. Number 8, I have Miss Marvel. I very much enjoyed the entire show, save for the one episode.
With the red daggers?
With the red daggers.
Yeah. That brought it down notches for me.
Only because that's such a big part of her comic storyline that they just kind of felt shoved in. Like we could have saved that for a later season or something. Mm-hmm. But I thought that 4th episode with the time travel or the 5th episode was phenomenal. I think that I would argue might be their strongest pilot for a TV show. And
it's a tie between another one that we'll get into, but I agree the pilot was very strong.
And I think that she gives an excellent performance, and I like that we got to spend time with her family and the characters. Like I care about the family. Mm-hmm. I was invested in their storyline. I bought them as a real family. Like I saw myself and my family like in them, even though like I'm not from their culture, completely different. and it got me actively excited for the Marvels, which I wasn't necessarily excited for.
Gotcha.
And I give that credit.
Yeah.
Right above that, in 7th, I have Moon Knight, which is funny because I think this is lower on my list than on yours, and I'm the big Moon Knight guy.
Yes.
But looking at it, I think I liked everything above it a little bit more. I think that Oscar Isaac gives a phenomenal performance. I know people were kind of upset about the way they adapted certain things. Everything that they adapted worked for me. I think Ethan Hawke is always a great performer. So to have him as your villain was very interesting. I think that toward the end, it scaled up too large for its own good. I think there was probably a much more intimate story that they could have gone for. But that being said, like the whole dynamic, the conflict, Khonshu was absolutely hysterical. And I love the actress is May Kalamawe. I'm blanking on the character's name in the show, but the main
Scarlet Scarab,
but like her regular character's name.
It's leaving me as well.
Leah?
I think I'm gonna look it up now. It's bothering me.
Yeah. I think that she did a phenomenal job, and I think all the characters are great. I'm excited to see Moon Knight in future things, and to see how they incorporate his dissociative identity disorder into that. But again, I think it just kind of scaled up too much toward the end there. Coming in at 6th, I have Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. What a bold, ambitious task that movie had to climb uphill.
Yeah.
And with the loss of Chadwick Boseman, and I think
Layla.
Okay, I was close.
Yeah.
And I personally was not a massive fan of the first one, and I'm in the camp that Wakanda Forever is better. I think that finally getting to see Namor on screen was awesome, and that they did the wing feet, and that they took them seriously and didn't make them a joke, and that's the only way that you can do that. And I think that everyone gives a very emotional performance in the movie, and the movie lands on that emotion. I think Angela Bassett deserves an Oscar nomination, quite frankly.
Same.
And overall, just everything and the way they handled the passing, everything just worked beautifully for me, and I very much enjoyed it. And then coming in 5th, I have Loki, which was rad. I loved all of it. We have Owen Wilson in the MCU, which is great. We had time travel, great. We got our first introduction to a Kang variant, which was great. We had multiple Lokis. We had Richard E. Grant as a Loki variant.
Richard E.
And
Grant.
we love Richard E. Grant. And it gave Loki his time to shine in his own solo project. And I think it worked very well. And I love his relationship with Sylvie and their dynamic. And overall, a lot of it just, I love the twist that you get revealed like halfway through the show. Because then you're like, hold on, now where's this going from here? And I just very much like Loki.
Awesome. My number 8 is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And
we weren't that far off for how different we feel on it.
That's true.
It's my number 9.
But that's why like the rankings are weird.
Yeah.
You know, because like you just have to get specific with everything.
Yeah.
But here's what I'll say about Doctor Strange 2. This movie was part of a COVID mishap where it and another movie later on this list had to switch release dates. Sucks. Had to rework the story or whatever. They lost their original director and writer. I had such a blast watching this movie. And each time I watch the movie, like Eternals, I like it more. And from a directorial standpoint, Sam Raimi's fingerprints are all over this movie, which in the MCU is a 50-50 shot. It either feels like another generic Marvel movie, or it feels like a Taika Waititi, it feels like a James Gunn, it feels like a Sam Raimi. And man, it was. There are certain story elements I wish that were different, and I think that there's some script things that bug me, like Memory Lane is something. I'm glad we got to see the characters pass, but there are many better ways to do that. You know how I feel about the Illuminati sequence. I thought it was perfect, and I thought it was handled exactly how it should have been. But I understand why people think otherwise. I do. I get it. To me, it was handled perfectly. I liked the risk of making Scarlet Witch the villain, and I thought it worked with the end of WandaVision, which people just seem to think, like, was not the path she was going on when it absolutely was. Do I think you could have made a better story where she becomes a villain about halfway through? Sure. But I thought what they did and the sequences it gave us some of the darkest, craziest sequences in the entire MCU so far. Mm-hmm. Seeing Doctor Strange come out from a dead body and create a cape of damned souls. You would have, if you
listen, I'm on board for that part.
It wouldn't have been on my bingo card of ever seeing it in the MCU ever.
Yeah.
And going into the multiverse, seeing Reed Richards, a version of Reed Richards, seeing Patrick Stewart as Professor Charles Xavier, like knowing that there's
Boltagon,
which is the craziest thing Kevin Feige's ever done, is bring back Anson Mount to play Black Bolt. I thought that from a pacing perspective, one of the best paced movies in the MCU. From start to finish, you're never bored. You're always intrigued. You're in it, even if you don't like what's going on. It never takes you out. You're in that movie till it ends. And I think that I have a fundamental disagree with. I know there's a lot of people that say like Doctor Strange doesn't get a whole lot of story. There's not a lot of changes with him. And while I do agree that they are handled on a surface level, the whole concept of him always having to be the one that holds the knife, and him seeing the other versions of himself fuck up their universes because they feel like they have to be the one that handles it.
Yeah.
And then him giving that opportunity to America Chavez at the end of the film. I think that story works very well for me. Mm-hmm. I know it doesn't work for everyone, but every time I watch that movie, that moment really works for me. And that being kind of his through line. And I also love that they kept the zombie phase talking to America Chavez instead of cutting back to him. That is the best Sam Raimi choice in the whole movie. Because
that was my favorite sequence.
He got a studio note that said, hey, maybe when he talks to her, can we cut to when he's in the other universe? And he was like, no, the zombie's going to talk to her.
No, the zombie's talking.
But for those reasons, I really, really like that film.
Okay.
And it is dead middle, 8th.
Mm-hmm.
Halfway point, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Number 7 is Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I do agree with you that it is, I like it more than the first film, but there is a gaping hole in this movie, and that is the missing of Chadwick Boseman. Mm-hmm. You know, I honestly feel if Chadwick Boseman had not unfortunately passed away and we got a movie with him and Namor and all this stuff, this would be like number 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
Did they do the best they could with what they have? Absolutely. Is the movie perfect? No. But emotionally, it's very rich. I agree with you that Angela Bassett deserves an Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
And it is a bit long. I think it's about 20 minutes too long.
Mm-hmm.
But there are sequences in this movie that I still think about and remember. And overall, I'm very happy with what they did, and I'm curious to see where it goes. It's just not as good as the other ones on this list, in my opinion.
Okay.
My number 6 is Moon Knight. This, to me, is in contention with Ms. Marvel for having the best pilot episode. Amazing pilot.
Very good pilot.
So for a brief section in the rankings, our audio recorder stopped working, but don't worry, it gets fixed. Stick around. My only big negative with the show is unlike Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I think should have been a movie, I think Moon Knight should have been 20 episodes. Because you're building, and then, that was the last one. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, they cram a bunch of story in that finale just to end it after 6 episodes.
Yeah, I remember when the 5th episode ended. I was like, there's one left?
Yeah. And the 5th episode, I think, is one of the best episodes that Disney Plus has ever done.
Yes.
And it was such a fun experience. Oscar Isaac giving one of the best performances in the MCU. And the action scenes were great. It's just there wasn't enough of it, and you can tell they crammed the story to fit 6 episodes.
Yeah.
That's the only big negative that keeps it this low on this list. My number 5 is Werewolf by Night. The only thing I really felt was wrong with this was it wasn't longer and it wasn't a movie, and I feel like it should have been. What a great way to introduce like the special presentation idea of, having these stories that you can tell in 45 minutes. And the reason why I put this so far above the Guardians one is I feel like this was a full, complete story.
Yeah.
In 45 minutes. That gives us tons of backstory in the MCU. It gives us tons of setups for the future. And it did it like a Universal classic monster movie. And it was great. And Michael Giacchino did an excellent job directing it. And I was
scoring.
I knew I was going to like it. Yes.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to like it. I was surprised by how much I liked it. And again, I just wish we could have gotten more. And I know that that's what you kind of want people to feel after these things, but it's one of those things that of all the decisions they've made, why didn't they make this one?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And Werewolf by Night gets number 5 because of that reason. Top 4, baby.
Top 4, here we go. Number 4 for me, I got Werewolf by Night for many of the same reasons that you
Nice.
you just lamented. I think that Michael Giacchino's score and direction were great. He said, I have this, give it to me, leave me the fuck alone. And they did, and it shows. I think that Gael Garcia, I believe his name is, did an excellent job as the character, especially for introducing a character that many people might not be familiar of. And the whole concept of, like, the werewolf, you know, it's a very basic story, and to incorporate that kind of side into the MCU was cool to see, especially with, like, Elsa Bloodstone and Man-Thing. Oh, Man-Thing's so sweet. I want more Man-Thing.
Yes, Ted.
Which was a total shock. I was not expecting him to be in it.
Yeah.
And again, just a complete story, 45 minutes, a lot of fun. It showed what these specials can be, and it's a shame that they set that standard so early on.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be hard to
live
capture.
up to. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could see more of the specials ending up being like little palette adventures, like the Guardian special, not these in-depth world-building things with Werewolf by Night. But the whole Universal Classic monster, just that you can tonally do something like that in the MCU and still have it be part of it, is really
as
cool to
soon
see.
as that claw came through the Marvel logo and that music hit, I was like, oh, I'm in for a fucking ride here.
Yep. Number 3, I have WandaVision. I believe that is my favorite of all the Marvel shows that have been released so far. Just all the comic sitcom tropes, the direction, the acting, the mystery of it all. Catherine Hahn as Agatha.
Perfect.
Everything about the show just worked so well for me. The return of Jimmy Woo, Kat Dennings' character, the daughter from Captain Marvel. I think just everything blended so well. The genres, to have it be your first Marvel Studios thing and come out the gate swinging like that.
Yeah.
Again, a hard
to
precedent
Emmy
to start.
nominations.
Yeah, exactly. And Elizabeth Olsen, like, we always knew was a star, but man, like, they showcased what Wanda could be and everything. And just everything worked very well for me on that. My number 2, I have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which is one of the best origins stories in the MCU for film, I think. I loved everything about that. They retconned and made the Mandarin cool, and they made Ben Kingsley's Trevor Slattery cool.
Was always cool.
Which I was always on board for anyway.
Yeah.
But the villain, the personal story between the father-son story there and the sister, just the family dynamics. Simu Liu as Shang-Chi was great. The action, they said we're making a kung fu movie, and my gosh, they did.
Yeah.
The fun little sprinklings of the MCU, like you have Wong fighting Abomination, which obviously we see play out in She-Hulk, but you're just like, hold on, why is Wong fighting Abomination? Just all these little tidbits, everything just worked for me. The mystery of what the rings are going to be and tie into. It did a great job of setting up a lot of things, and while still being able to pay off what they wanted to give you. And then number 1 is Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yes.
Because do I need to explain? Cool. That's my top 4.
Yeah.
I'm not explaining No Way Home.
Yeah.
I don't need to.
Yeah. So my number 4 was Loki.
Okay.
My only negative about the show is I didn't like the 3rd episode.
Okay.
But I thought episodes 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 phenomenal. Like, not just good, they're phenomenal episodes.
Yeah.
And I feel like the 3rd episode was there just to try to establish a connection with Loki and Sylvie and mention that twist that you mentioned earlier. But you could have done that throughout the show, because I felt more of a connection with him and Mobius, and they never stopped the show just to build that relationship. But they stopped the momentum of the show to do that episode, and I felt that it wasn't the right place to do that, and it didn't feel earned. Every other episode, phenomenal, and I'm a big Doctor Who guy, and the whole time I'm like, oh my god. And the reason why I think the show, I put it this high, when they announced the Disney Plus shows initially, this is the one I was looking forward to the least. And it blew me away. So Loki number 4. Our top 3 are the fucking same. Number 3 is WandaVision, the best show they've done so far. The There are people who say, like, oh, you can skip the first 2 episodes. Don't fucking do that. I think they're not only phenomenal, they build to the story perfectly. And there was a lot of hype when the finale came out and people saying they're disappointed. If you go back and watch that finale, it is the perfect ending to that show. The perfect ending to the story that they were telling, not the story you wanted to see.
Vision's storyline is just exactly how that would play out.
Yes, and it's amazing. Amazing stuff. Was I disappointed that he was Ralph Boner and not actually Quicksilver from Fox? Sure. But do I have a feeling that they're also going to make it so that something. It was? I also think that too. But it was immaculate storytelling, and it deserved all the accolades that it got, like the nominations it got at the Emmys. Number 2, Shang-Chi. Brilliant fucking film. Blew me away when we saw it. You know it's a good movie when both you, me, and Kyler come out and say it's great.
And a Marvel movie, nonetheless.
Yeah, and he's predisposed to not liking those. And number 1, No Way Home. Again, this is the only one that's come in so far, but don't worry, I pre-ordered fucking all of them.
Don't worry, they're all coming.
And it was just a cinematic experience, you know, and just the story worked and the fun fan stuff worked. Like, it all worked.
Yeah.
You know?
Fan service done to the best.
Fan service done to serve the story they were already telling.
Yeah.
And that's why, fundamentally, it's the number 1 movie on the list.
You could have done it with just the villains.
Yeah.
Or you could have done it with just one of the Spider-Men.
Yeah.
And it still would have worked.
Yeah.
Or not, you know.
Yeah. And I think that Spider-Man No Way Home is one of the best movies in the MCU.
I would also agree with that statement.
Yes.
Yes.
See, ranking the faces is easy. Ranking the entire MCU, I won't do it.
Be a 3-hour video.
Yeah, it would be.
And about 3 weeks of work.
Yeah, it would take me.
Yeah.
And I would constantly switch stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
I can maybe tell you the top 5 and the bottom 5.
Yeah.
Anything in between, don't ask me.
That's just a gamble. Yeah.
Yeah, but those are our Phase 4 rankings, guys. Go ahead and go through 1 through 16 for you, and I'll do the same.
Yeah. She-Hulk, Black Widow, Guardians, Hawkeye, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Eternals, Thor: Love and Thunder, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, Wakanda Forever, Loki, Werewolf by Night, WandaVision, Shang-Chi, and Spider-Man No Way Home.
And for me, 16, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, 15, Black Widow, 14, The Guardians Holiday Special, 13, Thor: Love and Thunder, 12, Miss Marvel, 11, Hawkeye, 10, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, 9, Eternals, 8, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, 7, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, 6, Moon Knight, 5, Werewolf by Night, 4, Loki, 3, WandaVision, 2, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and number 1, Spider-Man No Way Home. And with that, we are going to move to our movie reviews, and we have 2 for you this time.
Another Movie Nights double feature.
Yes, because we missed out on a week here. And the movies we're going to talk about today are... I just realized they probably suddenly saw my hat go backwards. The movies we're going to be talking about are The Whale and Babylon.
Yes.
The Whale, directed by Darren Aronofsky. Babylon.
Baby Lion.
Yeah, directed by Damien Chazelle. Let's do The Whale first.
Okay.
So, jumping right into it.
Yes.
All the hype you hear about the Brendan Fraser performance, believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I also am in contention that I don't know if it's going to happen, but the actress playing his nurse deserves a Best Supporting Actress nomination as well. Yes. I thought she was phenomenal. Sadie Sink was also good. Mm-hmm. I think the performances are better than the movie. I don't think the movie is bad by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's a good film. Mm-hmm. But I don't think the movie lives up to the performance, the lead performance. I compare this movie to Elvis in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And then I know people feel differently than me on this, but I feel like Elvis is a good movie, but that mostly relies on how good Austin Butler is in that movie. Mm-hmm. The Whale, without this Brendan Fraser performance, I'm not even sure if I would like the movie. Mm-hmm. And I love Darren Aronofsky and everything. I just never had the chance to quite really get into the film. I feel like some of the script is a bit uneven, mm-hmm. and there are sequences that just don't work for me. I ultimately think it's just a movie that thinks it's better than it is.
Okay.
And again, it's not a bad film. I sound like I'm shitting on the film. Mm-hmm. I think it has great production design. I think the cinematography is good. Just the overall story and how they told it, I thought could have been done way better. And without the performance, like, he carries the movie on his back, personally, mm-hmm. I think.
Yes.
And while I enjoyed the movie and I think it's good, I think he's the standout of the movie. Mm-hmm. And I think other than him and the actress playing the nurse, who was also in The Menu. I'm forgetting her name, but she was great in both.
She was. I didn't register that was her.
Yeah.
That's good.
The actress playing his ex-wife did not do a good job. And I love Ty Simpkins, who also has a role in the film. I also didn't think he did a very good job.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else about the movie, other than, what is that you say all the time? I love everything about the movie except the movie.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel about The Whale.
Mm-hmm.
Although, like, I normally give out grades, but like I'd probably give it like a B, B minus maybe, but an A plus performance.
But the performances get it to that ranking.
Yeah, an A plus performance from Brendan Fraser, and even the actress. I'm gonna get her name when you're talking, but I think they were excellent in the movie. And I think here's the good critic answer: the movie is not as good as the sum of its parts.
Okay.
Haha, puzzles. But I don't dislike the movie. I think the movie's fine, and I think the surface level of the story works. Mm-hmm. But for example, when I watched the trailer, I was like, oh, I'm going to cry during this movie. I didn't cry once. Mm-hmm. And it's not the performer's fault. I just think that this is also adapted from a play, and I think that there's moments in the movie that work on stage that don't work in a film. But I do think Darren Aronofsky did bring some filmmaking stuff that I enjoyed. Like, there's sequences I love, you know. To me, I didn't buy that the story took place over the course of a week. You know? It's just that kind of stuff just didn't really go well for me. But there's nothing in the movie that I think is particularly awful either, you know? Like, I know there's a lot of controversy with the movie. I didn't feel that when watching it. I thought it told the story in a very respectful way to someone gaining that weight and how their life would be. It's a story about hope. It's a story about the loss of hope. And there's a big thing in the movie that also kind of teetered me away a bit, which is, I don't know if I should spoil it. They come to a conclusion. Brendan Fraser's character comes to a conclusion about his daughter. That is just not the case. I don't know if you know what I'm referring to.
Yeah, I mean, spoil it. It's a limited.
Okay.
It's
Limited
out,
release.
Yeah.
Quick spoilers. She does something to Ty Simpkins' character to kind of get him in trouble and get him sent home. And Brendan Fraser comes to the conclusion that, oh, she's really a good person because she did it to send him home to be with his family. Yeah. No, she didn't. That's not what happened. And, you know, and I can see the argument of that not being the point of the scene, of whether or not she did that for that reason. Because I do love, there is a setup in this movie that turned on its head that I loved. And while we're spoiling, there's an essay that he likes to have repeated to him to calm him down. And it's setting it up, to me at least, it was setting it up to where his ex-lover wrote that.
Oh, I knew it was the daughter right away.
See, it got me when it was the daughter. And I was like, oh, I liked that much more. And there's scenes in the movie that I love. Like, oh, there's a heartbreaking scene with Brendan Fraser when he realizes that his daughter wrote a haiku. Yeah. Excellent. Like, the performance is beautiful in the movie. But yeah, overall, I think the movie is good. I think the performance is out of this world. And he will absolutely get an Oscar nomination. Possibly win. Your thoughts?
I agree with everything you said about the performances. In terms of who was good, it was certain plot elements, like the whole Ty Simpkins character, like the religion storyline of it, I think kind of seemed like they wanted to go in on it more and were hesitant to do that. Yeah. Which I think hurt the movie. Something I really like, and again, kind of agreeing with a lot of your points here. I think something that worked for me a lot was there was a lot of ambiguity with answers that I think worked to my level. Like, I knew that the daughter wrote the essay. They do not give you an answer as to if she did it purposefully or not. Brendan Fraser's character jumps to that conclusion, but that could be chalked up to his own optimism, him wanting...
Sure, because he is a very optimistic guy.
He's an optimistic guy, and that is allowing him... Because the whole thing, it takes place over a week because he knows he's dying, right? That's in the trailers. That's like and that's him coming to terms with that and his own mental state, writing this script that allows him to go peacefully. Yeah, and I think that worked. That and you know, and you as the audience can decide: are you agreeing with Brendan Fraser? Or are you not? And same thing with the nurse, because we reveal a tie-in of her and Brendan Fraser, their connection.
Yes, which I enjoyed.
Which I enjoyed very much. But here's the thing now. Are you looking at is she actually trying to help him? Because she's also an enabler. So deep down in her subconscious, is she also feeding him to get back at him? Well, what? And I liked that wasn't, that you can leave that to your own interpretation here.
Sure, yeah.
And the thing, too, is he's a very optimistic character, and you find yourself rooting at him. And again, the movie does a great job of masking it. He's kind of a selfish person. He's a very selfish person, because
he is flawed, for sure.
He's very flawed, and the biggest thing was he wanted to reconnect with his daughter to try to help her, but all he's doing is hurting her, because now he's going to build this connection, or whatever be it, and then he's going to die and put her through more trauma.
Yeah.
Which I think was selfish of the character.
Yeah.
And those elements all worked for me, but the script and overall was very simple. It was adapted from a play. I think it maybe could have used one or two more just flip throughs, but the performances with what they had, everything worked beautifully on it.
I agree. And kind of to your point.
Yeah.
Ultimately he's hurting her, and I like that he's flawed. He's a flawed character.
Yeah.
And I think that that point that you brought up of him being like, oh, he's hurting the daughter, and just, he knows he's dying and he won't go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay with him accepting that he wants to die, and that even his caretaker is letting him die. But to me, I don't know, there's almost just not enough effort to save him. Because even he gave up on himself so quickly, and it's heartbreaking to see, and it reflects in the performance.
Yeah.
And he's not in a great position in his life either. And I love the sequence when you find out that he has that money.
Yeah.
When the nurse finds out. But it's just, I didn't buy, even in his circumstances in his life, that nobody called the ambulance. I'll tell you my favorite through line throughout the whole movie, and the most heartbreaking, was the pizza guy. Yeah. That was beautiful and heartbreaking all in once.
And a jump scare.
A bit, yes. But yeah. I like the movie. I can see myself watching it again, but only to show somebody else.
Yeah.
You got to see this performance. Like if I tell someone to see this movie, I'm watch it for the performance.
Yes.
And it's not again, I'm sounding like I don't like the movie. I do.
I mean, from a technical standpoint, the direction, the
cinematography, the production design in particular, the makeup is going to get an Oscar for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just the story itself was very simple and basic in its premise.
And I don't mind simple and basic stories.
I mean, Banshees was.
Yeah, exactly. But I was engrossed that whole film.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it was just so much more, to me, well written.
Yeah.
And then this movie. And let's see. The actress's name was Hong Chow. Did an amazing job. Amazing.
Now, here's the thing. I very much liked it. In the world of recommend, don't recommend, it's a highly recommend.
In the world of recommend or don't recommend, I also recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I think that the performance is far better than the movie thinks it is.
And sometimes that's okay.
Sometimes that's okay.
Sometimes you can just watch a movie for the performance.
And this is where I piss people off. Let's talk about Babylon.
Let's talk about Babylon.
Brother, I like this movie a lot. I liked it a lot, dude. I'm not going to lie to you. I liked it so much. Now, granted, this movie is over 3 hours long.
Yeah,
Should it have been 3 hours? No. Is there stuff in the last hour that just, from a script structure standpoint, does not work? Absolutely. Should they have figured out a better way to end the film other than the Lord of the Ringsing it, as you like to put it? Absolutely, they should have done that. Did I enjoy the ever-loving fuck out of this movie?
But do you miss the great movie ride at Hollywood Studios?
Yes. And the first 90 minutes of this movie is the best movie I've seen all year. It's the best movie I've seen all year.
We did it with The Whale. We're just going to have to go spoilers on this one.
Yeah, spoilers.
We'll put the tag on it. We'll call it a day. Yeah.
Because it's been a minute since it's been out.
And it's made so much money. Everyone's clearly seen it.
But, okay.
I don't even know where to begin. There's too much.
Yes. So, first of all, right when the elephant shits on that dude in like the opening scene, I'm like, oh, this movie's for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the direction, Damien Chazelle's one of the best directors working today. The whole party sequence, the camera movements, the score is badass.
The pan in and pans out from a trumpet. I hope you like those in La La Land.
Oh yeah, because there's more of them.
Do you get more of them here?
The performances were excellent. I think Margot Robbie deserves a Best Actress nomination.
Mm-hmm.
I think Diego Calva, is that his name?
I believe so, yeah.
I've never seen him before. I thought he did excellent. Brad Pitt's always good. What PJ Byrne, that's his name.
The assistant to the director.
It won't happen. This guy deserves a Best Supporting Actor nomination. In this movie, he plays an assistant to one of the filmmakers in the silent era, and when they go into the talkies, who fucking crushes every second he's on screen. He's also in Wolf of Wall Street, like Margot Robbie.
And The Boys.
And yes. And this movie reminds me of Wolf of Wall Street. This movie reminds me of Wolf of Wall Street meets Uncut Gems. That's how this movie feels to me. It's constant anxiety and panic, but it's through the lens of the film industry and the drugs and the partying.
Yeah.
And like I said, the first 90 minutes are incredible. And the second 90 minutes aren't terrible. They just don't live up to the first half.
Yeah.
For flaws, the movie is too long, like I mentioned before. It goes into a direction in the final act of the movie that even I thought was like, okay, this is too much. This sequence was not needed.
Yeah.
You could have reworked this and kept the pacing better. Because that's the pacing of the movie is a bit back and forth. Mm-hmm. I do think the first hour of the movie doesn't even feel like an hour. Like it's just on all cylinders. And there are all-time favorite sequences in this movie. Like when Diego Calva has to go get that camera and then drive back and they got to get the shot before sunset and that director's just fucking losing it. Like, my fucking movie's ruined.
And like Brad Pitt's drunk off his ass.
And then the guy dying on the flagpole and they're like, he ran into it.
He ran into, yeah.
But and just the juxtaposition of seeing how films were chaotically made in the silent era and then switching to the closed set.
Yeah, because they had, 30 movies running at once on a set because you didn't have to care about the sound. Yeah. And then all of a sudden now you have the person in the sound box, you have the mic, you have to be specifically right underneath it. You have all these elements.
And I've seen controversy about the final scene of this film.
Mm-hmm.
I dug it, personally. Do I think that it set it up to end several times and didn't? Yes, and that should have been corrected.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the ultimate story of this movie being... The ultimate question this movie asks is the magic and beauty of the movies worth the absolute death and shit that you go through in Hollywood?
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth it? And it's the perfect antithesis to La La Land, which was also directed by Damien Chazelle, and I will be doing double features in the future of La La Land and Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, I loved it. It had me the whole movie. Mm-hmm. Now, does the second act drag and you start feeling that runtime? Yeah. And I think that there's even little sequences you could clean up and get out. Like, I like the idea of them hiring somebody to help Margot Robbie's character be more couth, if you will.
Yeah.
But I feel like part of that storyline could have been cut. You could have just had that be shown. Of the montages in this movie, that could have been part of a montage.
Yeah.
To me. And it's wild, it's crazy, it's high octane, and it just keeps you on your toes.
Yes, it does.
Thoughts, Nicholas?
I very much enjoyed the movie. As it stands right now, I don't think it's in my top 10 currently.
I haven't even begun to try that list.
That's fair. I think all the performances were fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I think Margot Robbie definitely deserves. It's probably my favorite role I've seen her in a while.
Yeah, she's great in it.
Brad Pitt shows up and he's Brad Pitt, but you're like, it's Brad Pitt.
Yeah. Even Olivia Wilde makes a little cameo.
Yeah. A lot of cameos in the movie. I was like, oh, him. Eric Roberts shows up for a bit.
Dude, when I saw Eric Roberts,
I went, is that Eric Roberts? Yeah. And it was.
they just dropped a surprise Eric Roberts.
And I think the movie's a lot of fun. It's very high octane, which I enjoyed, and Damien Chazelle's style of directing fits that wonderfully. And, all the early reviews, calling it like a hate letter to Hollywood 11 movies, as cheesy as it sounds, that is accurate.
That's exactly what it is.
And again, I think there was some tightening up that could have happened. For example, in the film, I won't go into deep spoilers, but Tobey Maguire's whole sequence, who's in the trailers, and I was like 2 hours into the movie and went, how has Tobey not been in this yet?
He's great in the movie, by the way.
And he's great. The whole purpose of his scene, though, led me to a conclusion that I was already at, personally.
I agree with you. I do.
But that being said, it was a fun sequence because, like, this other character who's, like, this drug dealer on sets is hysterical.
Yeah.
And Tobey Maguire gives a great performance, and I'm just happy to see my boy again, who I feel so bad because he's an executive producer on this movie, and the movie's not doing well. Mm-hmm. But again, like, that saves you 20 minutes right there. And maybe it's just me. I jumped to the conclusion that that's set up already. And just, I called it the Lord of the Rings ending because it just kept going, you know. And the thing is, there were all these separate storylines, so I appreciate that they concluded them. Mm-hmm. But each time it ended, I was satisfied. And I was like, you know, I didn't really need more after this. And they kept going. I'm like, all right, that was fine. And then they kept going. And then we get into that great movie ride montage. And I'm like, what's happening right now? And then it ends. I went, fair. But, like, the whole concept when he goes to the theater and is watching Singing in the Rain and seeing the glorification of this era that brought the characters so much heartbreak, and seeing characters that he watched witness certain events, I thought was so good.
Amazing.
And I was like, yes, stop. Like that, at that point, like when they wrap up Brad Pitt's storyline, when they wrap up Margot Robbie's, I'm like, okay, yes, I'm satisfied with this. And then that happened, and I went, because then that scene starts where he's like older and everything, and they go through, and I'm like, all right, come on. And then that happens, I go, please stop, just stop. Yeah. Like, you got it. And then it kind of trickles into chaos, and I'm like, I get what they were going for, but I was like, oh, like, I took so much away from that scene that I was upset that there was a little more after.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But overall, very much enjoyed the movie. I think as it stands right now, it is probably my third favorite of Damien Chazelle's four.
Okay.
I go La La Land, Whiplash, this, and then First Man.
That's probably how I see it as well. Although, gotta say it, love First Man. People give it shit. It's a great movie. It's a great fucking movie. And Whiplash versus La La Land is a battle I don't enjoy doing, because I have a very special place in my heart for both of those films.
Yeah.
How Whiplash didn't win Best Picture, I mean, I know how, because no one ever saw it, but it was nominated. But, like, it was the best movie of that year.
All this movie did was solidify Damien Chazelle as one of the best directors currently working.
Yes, and it's a shame that it's dividing critics. It is The Accountant of 2022. That movie's great. I don't know why.
I wouldn't compare it to Babylon, though. Like,
no. I mean, it's nothing like that movie. But in terms of, like, there's a split.
There's an even split. Yeah, I get that. Yeah,
recommend.
That is a recommend very
it's
much
long.
So. It's long. If you got 3 hours to kill, give it a watch.
Will get the 4K.
There you go.
Yes.
He has the 4K in Morbius, though, so take that with a grain of salt.
I mean, what if you
take that at what you want?
You're saying if you didn't have the opportunity to get the 4K Morbius, you wouldn't get it?
I mean, I would, but
see, it's fine.
But come on,
it's Morbin time.
It's Morbin time.
And I with that, I think that's all we had planned for today's show. Do you got anything else you wanted to add, Nicholas?
It's a long one. Thanks for sticking around. They really hopefully won't be as long in the future, but we had to cover a lot of this.
Yes, and we will fix any future technical difficulties we have. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next week.